Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Kendall and here we do block tutorials normally that go along with Pat Sloan's Block Wednesday Sew Along and other sew alongs hosted by Pat Sloan. This week, however, I have a surprise video for you which is one of my own making. I was asked to get in the sleepover fabrics that Pat designed into my store, and I did, and I have a few bundles left that I'd like to offer for sale now for $150 a bundle with free postage. This is only available to people living within Australia, and all you need to do is jump over to my website, quiltingbasics.com.au, and get yours now before they're gone. I will also soon be getting in some porch swing fabric, and I have put in a pre-order for her drawing room line, which is due in December. Contact me via the same website if you are interested in any of those. I also have some porch swing left over to offer, but I'm not sure how many until the order actually comes in. With all that being said, because I had the sleepover fabric and I thought, what am I to do with it? I decided to use the free pattern that came with the bundles, and you'll receive as well with your order, and see what I could make from the bundle, considering that 6 of the fabrics in there needed to be cut from yardage. So I put the pattern into my EQ8 software and worked out a design using 12 of the blocks instead of the amount needed in the pattern. And using some sashing and some borders, my quilt came out to just the same size, just about the same size even, as the one that is free in the pattern. So this video is a tutorial on how to make that block. So grab your bundle, grab your pattern, come with me, and I'll show you how to do it. Hopefully you've had a chance to jump over to the Benetex website and download this amazing free pattern shown here in Pat's Sleepovers fabric. The pattern is called Pillow Fight, which is quite fitting even for the Sleepovers fabric. What I did with this pattern was I took it into my EQ8 software and did a different design and a few tweaks so that I could ensure that I could make it with the fat quarter bundles that I have, as the original fabric calls for yardage of 6 of the fabrics. I think I've successfully managed that, and my design comes out just a fraction smaller than the original. These pieces here are for a pieced binding, and I've cut those at 3 1/4 inch to finish with a 3/4 inch thick binding. The other pieces I just showed you are for my 3 1/2 inch border. All of the other squares that are on the table are for our construction of our main blocks, and these include some pieced 3 1/2 inch squares and an economy block center. Those ones are for my sashing and cornerstones, so we don't need those. We're going to start by making the economy blocks, and for this you need to cut 8 from each of your 6 feature fabrics, which is the large daisy and the paisley daisy. Then we have some 4-inch squares here which we need to cut in half to make half square triangle units to go on the edges of our larger blocks to make our economy units. I would recommend starting at 4 1/4 inches, as I found the 4-inch start that I had here, and as listed in the pattern, didn't really leave much room to trim them down to ensure your economy blocks are square. So I'm going to take my 4-inch squares of the background fabric and cut each of those in half just once to make the half square triangle units needed to make our economy block units. We need 48 economy block units in total, so let's get to it. As I'm only going to be making the one block for this tutorial, I didn't need to cut them all down at this time, but for you going ahead, you would cut them all down now and make all your economy blocks at once, or whatever order you like to do it. So I'm just grabbing 4 of my feature fabrics here to make one block, and I'm going to take the first one and fold it in half in one direction to find the centers. I'll then also fold the half square triangle piece in half as well to find the center of that, match those centers up, placing the half square triangle unit on the bottom. Because it has a bias edge, whenever you're doing anything like this, you always put the bias on the bottom towards your feed dogs, and that way any stretch is taken care of and reduced on the top piece so that your square remains square. Line those up pin them into position and sew with a 1/4 of an inch seam. We're going to do this on the 2 opposing sides first of all before taking them to the ironing mat and pressing them out towards the half square triangle. We'll then do the same process on the other 2 sides, and I'll meet you back for the trimming down. As I said before, we are now just going to press these towards the half square triangle and then moving on to doing the other 2 opposing sides. When adding our second lot of half square triangles to these blocks, we'll just trim off those little dog ears to make sure that we have a straight surface for going through our 1/4 inch foot. With all of our half square triangles now attached to our centre block, we'll just press these out towards the half square triangle as well before getting ready to trim these down to their final size. With all of our half square triangles now attached to our centre squares, it is time to trim these down. My apologies in advance for the glare of the light from above. I'm doing this today with my 6.5 inch square ruler, and I'm simply placing it on my block and making sure that I have a 1/4 of an inch away on each of the 4 points from the centre square. You will notice here that there is not much for me to trim down, which is why I recommended earlier for you to use 4.25 inch squares to begin with to make your half square triangles and not the 4 inches listed in the pattern. I'm just plugging ahead with this because some edges do trim a lot, some trim a little, but I can make up for the unevenness in my seam allowances going forward from here. Trim down all of your economy blocks to the 6.5 inch required size. We just have one more lot of units to make before we can go to final construction of this block. So we're going to take all of our 3.5 inch squares now, except for our dark ones, or in this instance, the fabric is called Phone the Boys in magenta, green and blue, and sew those together with our 3.5 inch background squares to create a 2 patch unit. We'll then lay this out, and the final block construction goes together as a 9 patch. As you can see, I'm only doing 4 here because that's all I need for the one block. But when doing this for yourself, if you do, you would chain piece all of the 3.5 inch squares except those dark centers to get that out of the way and done all at once. We're now going to take these and press them towards the darker of the 2 fabrics before getting to the final block layout. I'm choosing to complete this as a 9 patch, but you could indeed sew together all 3 sections first and then sew those 3 sections together. But what I'm going to do is follow the 9 patch rules and sew all of my vertical seams first and then the 2 horizontal seams. What I'm doing here is making sure that my seam in the middle of the 2 patch unit is lining up nicely with the point of my economy block. And then when I sew this, I have to ensure that I'm hitting my thread just on the point there so that I'm not cutting that point off. We'll do this on all of those sides, doing our vertical seams and then our final horizontal seams. For this one, I'm pressing in towards the 2-piece unit in between the economy blocks, and that means that on the center row I have to press towards the actual background fabric so that when we go to sew our horizontal seams, all of our pieces will nest nicely. When attaching our middle section, pay close attention that your larger piece has the background square pointing towards that smaller piece. Then you will maintain the correct layout for the block. With our first horizontal piece done, we're actually going to press that towards the center, the smaller of our 2 sections, and then adding the other horizontal seam, we'll do the same and our block will be done. Thanks for joining me again this week, folks. Even if you haven't got the sleepover bundle, this is a great pattern to make, and it is free on the Benetex website for you to download at any time. Go grab yours, make yours today. I'd like to thank you all for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. So, bye for now.